Hey, real quick, if you're a podcaster and you've been feeling like you're doing this alone or you're close to giving up, I get it. Podcasting can feel like a solo mission, but it doesn't have to be. You should check out Podground. At Podground, you'll find other hosts who actually get it. You can connect with podcasters from around the world, apply for grants, learn tips, tools, and strategies, join networking events, meetups, and even trivia nights. You'll get real support, feedback, and connections that matter. Don't quit your show or your dream. Come find your people at podground.io. That's podground.io.
Let's just start. I don't even know how to start this, but let's just flow with it. Okay. Everyone, welcome back. This is part number 2 of my conversation with Myles. And how you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me back.
All right. Again, this is I Made a Podcast, and we are walking through this process with Myles. And hopefully you can do the same. If you're starting a podcast right now, follow the steps that we are walking through. And I'm going to show you how we did it, what we did, and why we need to do certain things so that we can not only have a podcast, but have a podcast that actually makes impact and can, last longer than, 10 episodes or, 5 episodes or whatever the cutoff is that people stop producing their podcast. That's actually a big thing for podcasters. Like, they start with all this encouragement and fire and enthusiasm. Then after like 3 or 5 episodes, they're like, I don't have time to podcast. And then their podcast just kind of fades away. Exactly. Yeah. But anyways, so you're doing good?
Doing well.
All right, good.
Doing well.
Now, the last time we got together, I gave you some homework. I'm going to act like the teacher now. And actually, you told me to hold you accountable.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
you did. And I did do my homework. I did.
All right, good. So let's go over that homework right now. All right. So first of all, one of the questions that I asked you, now I notice you don't have any notes or anything.
I wasn't sure if I should bring my phone. I do. I have it all in my.
You have it because I was about to say, if you have it all in your head, that's impressive.
Most of it, but you know what? Let me just to be safe.
Yeah, if you had it in your head, that'd be great. But I'd be like, oh, this guy really has been thinking about it, memorized everything. So the first thing that I asked you to, actually, you know what? Before we even get into the homework, you just remind everybody what your podcast is about.
All right. So I just really want to educate people on finance. I know financial literacy is such a buzzword right now, but I do think it is very important for us to just have a better understanding of what is going on in our economy. Not necessarily high-level stuff. I've been kind of living by the model lately that I wish I paid more attention to accounting in high school. So I'm trying to kind of remind people the importance of math, finance, and knowing your numbers.
Right.
So that's pretty much the gist of it.
Okay, excellent. So the first question that I gave you for homework was, who is your ideal listener? All right. And you're supposed to give me the demographics about your ideal listener. So you want to answer that question? Or?
Yep. So ideal listener is just someone that feels like they have, I guess, a bit of a hunger, but not knowing where to start with their new financial journey or resetting their financial journey. I wouldn't say it's like a niche, because I think there's a lot of people, especially in today, where in my age group, they feel they can't do certain things that their parents were able to do. So I want to get, I guess, anywhere from age 30 to 45, people that might feel that they may be a little behind. I just want to show them that they're not behind, and baby steps can help you get into the direction that you want to get into.
So 30 to 45, you said, is the age range that you're targeting. Now, is there anything else? That's it for who your ideal listener is,
That's
right?
ideal, yeah. I mean, I invite everyone to listen, but I think there's a demand, or there's a gap with people in my age group that may feel they're still living with their parents. They may feel bad about that, or they're stressing about saving for a wedding or what have you. Certain things, milestones that they think that they might not have been able to get to as yet. I want to show them different ways to get there.
Okay, good. All right. So, I don't know if I should be the good teacher or the bad teacher. Maybe I'll be the bad teacher. You'll be the bad teacher? Okay. So, your age demographic that you gave me was perfect, but I think it needs to be a little bit more specific.
Okay.
And this is the reason why. I'm trying to set you up so that your podcast, when the time comes, you'll have these demographics kind of nailed down, so that when you even want to go and find sponsors, they'll know exactly who your listener is, or your listeners are. Okay. So I need to know, are you targeting more males and females, or what's the target when it comes to your ideal
I
listener
think
there?
like when the first thought that comes to mind is normally male. I think men stress about money a little bit more. I mean, that's just from my perspective, but I do want women to listen as well. My fiance jokes with her friends saying that they want to start a podcast called Entrepreneurs Wives. And,
That's a good one.
right?
Yeah.
Because as much as I show and do everything as if it's myself, my partner is a tremendous help, and she kind of has
Mhm.
similar financial concerns that I will have as we're trying to go through this journey, right? So as much as I'm speaking maybe to the men, I do think women can definitely benefit from what I'm sharing as well.
Okay, so let's drill this down and make sure that we got it. So, 30 to 45 males, and what do they look like? Like, where are they from? Like in terms of their education, their background. So pretend that you are doing your podcast right now, right? And you have one, or you're in a room. Yeah, let's do that. You're in a room, you're on stage, and you're speaking to one person, but that one person that you're speaking to is the perfect person for you. Tell me what he looks like. Just so close your eyes, picture yourself standing on a stage. The room is empty, but you have one person sitting right there, and he is attentively looking, at you, and he's waiting. He wants to swallow up everything that you are saying. What does he look like? Tell me everything that you know about that one person.
I would say he is the person that, again, just he might not have finished post-secondary school. He worked he's worked in the rat race, quote unquote, and
Corporate.
is corporate,
Yeah.
and is feeling almost like at his wits' ends. Like, I've been in this for how many years, and I'm just kind of making ends meet, not really advancing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to kind of touch the people that feel stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what is he? Is he
Is
he athletic? Is he like sports? Does he read books?
Yeah, sports, music. I think someone like me that was like always up to the times with like pop culture, loves entertainment.
Does he like technology?
Loves technology. Well, not necessarily. Because as much as I say I love technology, I don't go as deep as a real lover would, So,
Got you. But I'm telling you, I'm talking about that one guy in the audience that is watching you right now,
That's
right?
right. Yes, sir. So yes, I mean, yeah, loves technology. Forward thinker, but not necessarily taking the actions. Right.
Mhm.
Always having ideas, but never really pulling the trigger to actually start. Someone afraid to fail. Constantly overthinking it, thinking the what ifs. Not realizing that even in a loss, there's a lesson. They're afraid of maybe optics, how it may look to not succeed the first or second time, and things of that nature.
So, does he have a family? Is he married? Does he have kids? Do you see a ring on his finger? Or
No ring, but he might have a kid or two.
Okay.
Previous relationship. Yeah, no ring. This is the person that probably aspires to get married, but is worried that they might not be able to come up with the funds to pay for a wedding and things of that nature. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. See, these are things that are all important, because when you have a podcast, a lot of people just get on the microphone and just talk, and they say, oh, well, I want to talk to everybody, right? And it's fine. Maybe everybody will listen, but if you're not specific in who you are talking to, that one person, it will not help you to connect to your ideal listener, right? Now, that ideal listener that you have may share it to someone else who is not your ideal listener, and you might get other people who will listen, who are outside of your ideal listener. But what I'm saying is, you have to know that ideal listener so well, because, and this is why this is the first question of the homework, because everything else that we do will be focused on that ideal listener.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yep.
So, and it helps you out in so many ways down the line. Okay. But when you talk about the title of your podcast, right? I know you came up with the name already, right? You have to have that ideal listener in mind. Okay. If he sees this, will he be like, oh, if he sees the title, he'll be like, I want to listen to this. Will he say that?
That's fair.
Right. You have to think about that when you're putting the titles of your episodes. You're going to have to think about that ideal listener the way that you speak and present your information, right? You're going to have to think about, are you packaging your podcast that it will resonate with that one person, right? That one person that came to see you, right? And the thing about it, you may think that it's like kind of putting yourself in a box, but it's not, because when you find that one person, that ideal listener, you will find out that there are so many people that identify as that ideal listener. And not only will you be able to share and give your content to him and share your expertise, but you will have a stronger connection with that one person.
That makes sense.
Right? So your homework, I'm going to give an eye for it, needs improvement for that first question. All right. So take what I'm saying, okay, and we can take down some notes afterwards, and we can tweak that ideal listener to add some more structure behind it. Okay. That one person who's sitting in the audience, tell me all of the details about him, okay. Right? And here's how important that is. Okay. Mm-hmm. Say in 6 months down the line, your podcast is doing great. You've connected with that ideal listener, right? You know everything about them, right? Mm-hmm. It's time to monetize your podcast, right? It'll be easier for you to connect with the right brands to ask for sponsorships if you guys have your ideal listener and their ideal customer are in line.
That makes sense,
right? And that's how all of these brands out there, when they're targeting their ideal customer, that's the detail that they are going to, where they know everything about this ideal customer. The age, actually, your age, you gave a 15-year gap. I would even narrow it down, right? Because that 15-year gap can cover so much things can happen in 15 years, right? So it could cover so much different people in different stages of life in those 15 years. So I would even narrow down that age demographic as well, right? Mm-hmm. So think about that one person that's in the audience listening to you speak on stage, right? And write down all of the details about him. And again, it serves you for how you frame your content, and it also helps you down the line when you want to reach out for brands for sponsorships. If you want to partner with anyone to do some collaborations, right? They're going to want to know, hey, who is your ideal client or your ideal listener, right? To see if there is any mutual, agreement with regards to our listeners. When you nail that down, it only helps you to stay focused and helps you down the line to kind of make the right decisions that will help your podcast grow.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
All right. Yeah. So needs improvement.
I got you.
All right. So now, continuing on that same vein of your ideal listener, the second question that I asked you was, what are the challenges, the interests, or questions does that ideal listener have regarding your topic?
Right. So, I think the main challenge, I don't know if this makes sense, but how I kind of came together with this is like, more than anything, it's a mindset thing. And I think the person that I'm talking to they have gone through life a certain way for such a long time, and certain things may have worked in their favor, but again, they're still just not exactly where they want to be. And I think the biggest challenge is making that mindset shift. So even in creating some of the ideas for these episodes, it was a lot of mindset driven ideas.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what about interests and any specific questions that you think they might have?
Interests, just like, again, financial freedom, understanding how to kind of create their own time, and questions, just how to start. I think a lot of people a lot of people say they'll start when they get to A, B, and C, or they'll start when something else happens. And I want to encourage people, just like they say, 1% better every day. You don't have to start big. You can start small and consistently, and you can get to where you need to get to.
Okay, perfect. This is good. I'm not going to drill into those too much, but the one question that I will ask you on it is, how do you know that mindset is important? How do you know that getting started is important? It's a challenge that your ideal listeners have.
Yep, because this ties into one of your other questions as well. It's how I was able to kind of make the shift. The biggest transition for me was realizing that I needed to change my perspective, change my mindset, the way I view things. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, and talking with friends that I've had for decades, when you it's like that movie They Live with Roddy Piper. He puts on these shades and he can see the real, but everybody around him can't see it unless they have the shades on.
I've never seen that movie.
That's good. It's old, but it's good.
I gotta check it out.
But now I can't unsee it. So now I can see. I give examples. When I was 18, my dad offered to buy me my first car. It was like a 92 Maxima, but it was burgundy exterior, burgundy interior. And at 18, I was like, I'm not driving around in this car, right? And it's like, but what does that have to do, the color and all that stuff have to do with you having a little bit of independence, being able to get to where you want to get to? So just my stubborn mindset, I'm thinking too much about like material or vanity. I wasn't able to see the benefits of what my dad was sharing. And a lot of times I feel like we block ourselves because of our mindset.
Okay. So what I hear then is you've used a lot of your own experience to confirm that the challenges, the interests, and the questions that your ideal listener might have, right? And that's not, it's not wrong, it's not bad, right? Because your experiences are valid and they might be common to the person who is your ideal listener. Here's some additional homework that I'm going to give you on this, though, okay? What I'm going to ask you to do is find 5... Actually, did I give you this homework last time? I don't think I did.
think so.
No, I didn't. Okay. So find 5 people on social media
Mhm.
that talk about what you're talking about. And I want you to go through their content and find the most viewed or the most liked comment and what it was about. Write down what it was about. Okay. The top 5 or top 10, however much you can find from those 5 people. Okay. Maybe top 5 things, write it down. And then also go into the comments for each one of those posts and find out the questions that people are asking about it, right?
Okay.
This is research that you're doing, real data that you're getting from real people. That might be your real customers or your real listeners, right?
Yep.
You go into the comments and you see what questions they're asking, the comments that they're making. This is gold for you. And the way that this helps you is it helps you to frame the type of content that you create on your podcast, right? And it's real data from real people that are putting comments in on other people's posts, right? So for anyone else out there who's starting a podcast, and if you're trying to generate ideas, this is a simple way that you can go onto someone else's profile on social media and just go through their comments and see what real people are talking about, right? See what they're saying, what confuses them. And then if you see any trends, take note of everything. So one of the big things that you're going to be able to do, or one of the big things that you should do, is get like a notebook and just become a student doing research, right? Everything that you see from these people, things that, go viral, write it down. Write down this post, write it down. What I do is I use my phone. And if I see a post that someone posted, I actually copy the link and I put it in my notes app. And then I write down underneath the notes app all of the things that jumped out to me about that post, right? And then when I'm doing my research, I can just go back to that note in my phone and click on the link, watch the video again or watch the post again, look at the comments, see if there's any new comments, see which ones had the most engagement, the most questions, the most replies, which ones were, not important, which ones are important, but you have all of that data and write it down, right? Do all of your research, write it down, and then you'll start to see trends. You'll start to be able to identify areas that you can focus in on your podcast. And then, I'm getting ahead of myself, but there's a strategy in that as well of how, when it's time to share your content, there's a strategy that you could employ that will target these people the same way that you're doing the research. But I'll talk about that next time, right? That's for episode part 3 of this. All right. So now the next question that I asked you was the format. All right. So we talked about your ideal listener and why that is important, right? How to see that one person in the room and tell me every single thing about him. We talked about the challenges, the interests, and the questions that your audience might have, and how do you confirm it, right? That's what we just finished talking about. So what about the format of your podcast? Have you thought about how long it's going to be? Is it going to be solo, interview? What's the details that you can give me about your podcast format?
Yep. So I put short and concise, like 20 minutes max. And I based that off of really myself, the YouTube videos that I watch, whether it's entertainment or financial. I usually don't watch anything longer than 20 minutes. It's like certain documentaries or what have you. But for the most part, 20 minutes. I do want to have a mix of sharing my stories, but I want to interview people, like just regular people that have the similar transition that I've had, to share their stories as well. And
sprinkle in some interviews here and there, right?
Exactly. Sprinkle in some interviews, and just showcasing that financial success is attainable from all walks of life. So I want to show, I guess, experiences that I've had, and then, like you said, from other people as well. Just make it realistic.
So for the most part, it's going to be a solo podcast.
The majority would be solo,
20-minute long,
and then
interviews every now and then. How long would the interviews go for?
Still, I would keep them under the 20 minutes. Try to, at least.
Good luck. Because it depends on who you're talking to, right? Because if you're talking to someone who likes to what do they say, who's very verbose, I guess, they might carry on. That's going to be a challenge for you.
Yeah.
It is for me, even right now. But the good thing is you don't have to cut them off if they're in the middle of a good story or a good interview, right? You can have 2 parts and if the conversation goes on for like 40 minutes, you can have 2 20-minute episodes, So keep that in mind, right? Yeah. Because it's going to be hard to keep an interview under 20 minutes. It's going to be challenging unless you're just asking like, boom, quick, responses, right? But when you get into like, especially financial situations and stories that people may have, in order to explain it and give the full context so that people listening can understand it, it might drag on longer than, it might be difficult to fit it into 20 minutes is what I'm saying, right? But so just keep that in mind. So it's good that you have that narrowed down though. And what I do like, I'm going to give you an A+ for this one. Okay. So you took into account the attention span, right? So your ideal listener, right? You're thinking about him again, maybe his attention span, maybe he only has like 20 minutes a day to listen to podcasts or, that's the only time he has, right? So that's good. Because I find that a lot of people don't have the attention span. It has to be something really, really good to be an hour straight that people can listen to.
And even then, sometimes it's still tough, even if you have
Absolutely.
a lot of good stuff, an hour's, so.
It's challenging, yeah. So that's good. And then the solo and interview format, I think that's great because at some, you continue to learn and grow, but at some point, you might run out of things to say, or you might just get tired of your audience might get tired of just seeing you. So you shake it up every now and then by doing an interview, bring in someone with a different personality, a different voice, different take, different perspective, just to bring some variety to the podcast, right? So that's something that I've coached some people with regards to podcasts as well. And that's something that I encourage, especially when they start off and say that they want to have like a solo podcast. I said, that's fine. You could have a solo podcast, but try to maybe every now and then sprinkle in like an interview with someone who is, an expert at something that you're talking about related to whatever your podcast is about, here and there. Because again, it brings a fresh voice, a fresh face, fresh energy, fresh perspective, a little change, and it shakes it up for the audience so they just don't get tired of, not in a bad way, but people get, I think is it called pod fade? No, it's not called pod fade, but they just get tired of just seeing you over and over and over again. So just to give it some variety, right? So that's good that you have a solo-based podcast, but you're also going to sprinkle in some interviews every now and then, which would be perfect. Now, what I will ask though is, have you considered how you will ask or how are you going to ask the questions? What kind of questions are you going to ask them, or how are you going to do research for those interviews in order to ask the right engaging questions that make it a good conversation?
It's a good question. I don't know. This is funny, but I was just going to I was going to ask myself and then plug it into ChatGPT. So
You're a smart guy. Okay, good.
So kind of backstory, I used to work in IT recruitment where we help IT professionals find work. That's actually where I met my fiance. She is the actual recruiter. I was the business developer pitching the people that she would find. So she's always laughing at me because she's great at asking questions. She's good at digging. And me, I'm not the greatest. So I'm always like leaving conversations saying to myself, I should have
asked that. So
I'm going to definitely use her guidance, at least to get the ball rolling, and utilize technology as much as I can.
Okay, perfect. So here's what I would suggest, okay? Try to come up with a format or a template or a way that you can, before you interview someone, a way that you can get as much information as you can on that person, okay? ChatGPT is great, especially if they have like an online profile or something, right? You can say, hey, have a list of questions that you want to ask, and you can throw it into ChatGPT and give me, all of the details about this person that I can ask to make this an engaging question or engaging interview with this person. And ask also with the questions that you ask, right? Because that makes a big difference in terms of how they'll respond, right? Because you want to ask the question in a way that it frames it really nice for them to deliver a really engaging answer, right? So one of the things that I do with ChatGPT is I ask it to, if I have questions, I say, hey, ChatGPT, can you frame this question so that it can stimulate a lot of curiosity for the person who is answering the question? Right? And ChatGPT will take the question that I gave it, rewrite it so that the essence of what I'm trying to ask is still there, but give it to me in a way that it is will be like, as the person answering the question, will listen to it and be like, oh, I never thought of it from that perspective, right? Even though they may have the answer to that question, but they didn't think of it from that perspective. And then they'll be able to give you a more engaging answer, right?
Smart, yeah.
So use technology to help you. Even if you think you have your questions, throw it into ChatGPT and ask, or whatever AI tool you use, and ask it. I say them like it's a person, but ask it to, refine your questions so that your questions can be more engaging and stimulate more curiosity, right? So because the goal when you have, you want to be a good question asker when you have an interview-based podcast. You want to be able to ask good questions, but not only ask good questions, ask good follow-ups as well, right? So in order to do that, you also have to be a good listener, right? So listen to what is being said by the person that you're asking the question. And then if you feel like you need to dig into something a little more to give a little bit more context or something, again, when you're listening, you're thinking about your ideal listener, that one person in the audience. If he's there sitting there in the audience and he's listening, would he raise his hand and say, hey, I have a question about that? And you need to now think like that person and ask that question, that follow-up question, because your ideal listener probably wants to know that, right? So let's say, for example, if you have a podcast about goldfish and your ideal listener likes has something, he wants to know what type of tank to get for his goldfish, right? But the person you're talking to a tank expert or an aquarium specialist, right? And he's talking about all of the different types of aquarium for all the different types of tropical fish and sharks and everything like that. And he's giving you all the rundown, but he misses goldfish. But that's what your ideal listener really focuses on, goldfish. And you can say, hey, so you mentioned all of these different tanks for all these different types of fish. Is there something specific that I can ask about goldfish tanks? Or is there something specific about goldfish tanks that I can, that you can tell me so that my ideal listener, so that people out there can know what to do about their goldfish and their tanks that they should get? I know it's a really random example, but you understand what I'm trying to say,
absolutely.
right?
Yep.
You have to be a good question asker, and then you also have to be a good listener and be able to ask good follow-up questions, keeping your ideal listener in mind. Yeah. Okay, so this is very important, very important, right? And again, everybody else out there listening, if you're doing an interview-based podcast, it can do great, it can fail. It all depends on how well you ask your questions, how well you listen, and how well you ask follow-up questions. Those are three things that are really important. All right. Now, on the point of interviews, I also want to actually, now that I think about it, not only for interviews, but like in podcasting in general, right? Your energy level, right? You have to kind of be excited about it. Like even, and I use this example often because it's something I do all the time. Like when you see someone performing on stage, right? Anything. It's one thing, like if as the performer, maybe like what's a top performer, a pop singer, Beyonce or Taylor Swift, when you see them on stage, it comes across like they're giving their all, right? They're giving like 100%. But for you to perceive it that way, they actually have to give 150% of their energy in order for you to perceive it as 100%, right? And I use that as an example is because when it comes to your energy levels on your podcast, you might think that you're giving 100%, but the perception when people are listening to it, it will come across like you're giving only 50%. The camera or the audio, whatever people are listening to or watching, it always decreases the energy levels by a little bit. So not only do you need to feel like you're giving 100%, you have to give that much more, right? For it to come across well on camera or in the audio. All right. So that's an important point as well. All right. So keep that in mind. And when you have people who you are interviewing, right? And this is really important because I had people who I have interviewed and they've been like, yeah, well, Chris, I'm good. I started my podcast and, I love it. It's a great thing. And I'm here and I'm just like, you're not giving me anything. You're not giving me no energy, right? So as the interviewer, I have to take it upon myself to infuse them with my energy because energy is contagious, right? Like if we get in the room, it's hard for me to be all like off the wall and everything, and you sit there like, yeah, it's impossible, right? You will try to get up to my level of energy, right? So, and as the interviewer, it's my responsibility to do that, not to be overly, dramatic or anything like that, but to do it in a way that it brings your energy levels up too, right?
Yep.
And that's a skill. A lot of people can't do it, but that is an absolute skill.
Definitely not something that I thought about. But
Yeah.
no, for real.
Yeah. And you know what will happen is when you start your podcast, you'll start to listen to it and you'll be like, man, I sound so flat, or I sound so this, I sound so that. I've been there, right? If I go back and listen to my very first few episodes, I thought that I was like giving my all.
Mhm.
But when I listen to it, I sound completely flat, completely lifeless. Like I was just like I just woke up, right? Because you have to give
More.
you got to give more when you're on the mic. You got to give more. Use your voice, right? That's the other thing. Your voice is a tool, so you have to learn how to use your voice, vocal inflection, your pauses. I mean, I know people's voices. It is what it is, right? That's the voice that they have, but their voice is a tool, right? So you have to learn how to use it, spacing as you are speaking, the pauses, vocal inflections. If you're emphasizing something, like you see how I just went up, right? All of these things help people who are listening or watching. It helps them to keep their attention on your podcast, right? And I'll say this and then we'll move on to the next question. I recently did an interview with an author. Her name is Marva Tyndale. She is, she's I think she's in her 70s, but the way that she speaks, and I asked her at the end of our interview, I said, have you ever taken professional speaking classes? She says, no. And I was just like, how do you do that? She speaks, her pace, her vocal inflections, the way that she uses her voice, absolutely perfect to keep someone's attention throughout. We had an hour-long, I'll send you the video afterwards and you can watch it. Hour-long conversation. And it was just, you could listen to the way that she speaks and you can see that she's using so much, dynamics in her voice to keep people listening. Right? So keep that in mind for podcasting in general, but especially when you are interviewing someone.
Makes sense.
All right. So let's talk about, let's talk about the name of your podcast and then we'll talk about the first 10 episodes. So give me the name.
So I named it and now you have me
Yeah.
thinking.
Got you second guessing. You're erasing your answers on the test. Eh?
So I named it the Gnosis Report. And the word gnosis is spelled Gnosis. It's of Greek origin, and it just means spiritual or inner knowledge.
I'm going to go in on this one.
Yeah. So why I chose this is because, really, I'm trying to remind people that a lot of what we think we need starts from within.
Mm-hmm.
We really have a lot of the tools that we don't believe that we have. I tell people all the time, I grew up Catholic. I'm not the most religious anymore, but I still read the Word. And the Bible tells us we are created in God's image and likeness. Like literally anything we put our mind to, we can do. A lot of it, everything we see in here, if we see in this room, someone thought it first and then they created it. So a lot of our greatness is from within. We have God-given ability. So that's kind of where I'm trying to go with this podcast, is just as much as I'm sharing information, a lot of this is from internal aspect. Basically.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. I love the thought behind it.
Yeah.
And it's true. I agree with it because everything that we see here and everything on camera, right? It was an idea in my head, right? Before I built it, right? And it came from within. So I absolutely agree with that. Now the name, how do you pronounce it?
Gnosis.
Gnosis.
Yeah.
Okay.
G is silent.
Question for you. G is silent. That's even, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. See, I said I was going to be the bad teacher at the beginning, right? G is silent. Okay. How many people today
know that word
that you spoke to?
Very little.
Very little. Okay.
I didn't even know this word until 2023, and I'm almost 40. So,
how many people do you think went on to Google today and searched that word?
Zero.
Probably zero.
Zero.
Okay.
Most likely zero.
How well do you think it's going to stand out and tell people about what your podcast is about when they see it and when they're scrolling in the millions of podcasts that are out there? If they see that title, how many people will be like, oh, I want to click on this because I know I'm going to learn about financial literacy and grow about my finances because it says Gnosis.
That's true.
I don't think many people are. So not knocking your name. I love the intent behind it. But I don't think it will be successful in stopping people in their tracks so that they will be able to listen to your podcast.
Okay.
All right. So not to say that you should throw it away.
No.
Yeah, don't throw it away because listen to what else I'm going to say. The title of your podcast, the first thing that you should really think about is SEO. That's the first thing you should think about. If I have the title for this podcast, if people search for this word, I have a chance of showing up. All right. That's the first thing that you should think about. Or this word or this phrase, right? So not to say that you shouldn't use that word, but have a phrase with other keywords, or even better, have the name for your podcast, right? And then a subtitle for your podcast, right? So I don't even know mine off the top of my head, but I'll tell you in a second. Hold on. So my podcast, I have a few of them, right? So my podcast, the first one is called, is it going to play? No, I hope it doesn't play right now. I just want to get the name. Okay. So listen to this. It's called the Faith Fight Podcast. Find God's purpose, grow spiritually, and get your prayers answered. That's the title, right? The Faith Fight Podcast. That's the original name that I had at the beginning. It wasn't really, I decided to add the subtitle last year. Find God's purpose, grow spiritually, and get your prayers answered, right? And I added the subtitle, and what has happened, and I learned this from one of the podcasters that I interviewed last year. What I've noticed was when I made this change, it actually increased the people that organically found the podcast through search engines. Why? Because I got keywords, find God's purpose. Everybody's searching what's God's purpose for me, right? Everybody, grow spiritually. How do you grow spiritually? People are searching online. How do you grow as a Christian spiritually, right? I'm going to be bumped up in the search results, right? How do you get your prayers answered, right? Keywords right there in the title of my podcast, okay? So it'll be bumped up higher in the search engine, so people can find it organically, all right? So everybody, the only time a name like that can stand on its own and be very successful is if you already have a very well-established brand, right? Like Oprah. She could say, and everybody knows it's Oprah. It's just a letter and everybody, everybody will know it's Oprah, right? The O Network, right? Everybody knows Oprah, right? Because she already has an established brand, right? The rest of us, even, certain celebrities who don't have, or, not, I guess, B-level celebrities who don't have a really big following, you gotta play this game, or this SEO game, with your title of your podcast if you want more people to find it.
That makes sense. I didn't even think of that. That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Right. So, and this is all gold for everyone else out there who's starting a podcast. Be very, critical of your title, right? Think about it.
And just touching on what you said as well, like, I'm just going to put all this into ChatGPT, like emphasizing on SEO. Keyword search is important. Just remembering those things, right? Like, so thank you. That's huge.
Easy. It's that simple, actually. Say, hey, this is my podcast name that I was going to write, but can you rewrite it, use this word in the name so that it's SEO optimized, and people can find it on, when they search on Google. Rewrite it, give me a new title and subtitle, use this name in it, something like to that extent, and say, hey, give me 10 examples. And it will give you a whole bunch of examples, and it will keep going. And actually, you know what? Add a prefix to that question and say, because this is the key, actually, when you're doing anything on ChatGPT, act as a whatever,
100%. That's in my settings.
Okay, good.
The full stack.
Good.
Whatever.
Excellent. Right? Because if you have that as a prefix to your question, it will think in lines of the context of that person or that role, and give you more specific answers that will help you.
I even put information about myself, like, because you can personalize in settings, and it will do, like, for example, now when I run comps on a house, I'll put it in, and then it'll give a bunch of information, but then it will narrow it down for, like, someone in your position should X, Y, and Z. So yeah, as much as people are a little skeptical,
scared
of putting too much information, I don't necessarily mind, because I use it as a tool. I don't just use it for leisure. I mean, sometimes I do, but for the most part, it's still.
Well, do you text chat? Hey, what are you up to today, chat?
We actually, off screen, we were just talking about vacations. Our last family trip, we're in Mexico, and I seen there was this guy with a bunch of, like, random tattoos, and I was up until like 2, 3 in the morning having a debate with ChatGPT about certain symbolisms and things of this nature. And my wife woke up at like 2:30. She, like, rolled over and seen I'm not beside her in the bed, and I'm on the chair just in my phone. She's like, "Who are you talking to at 2:30?"
You were talking to ChatGPT.
I promise. He's my best friend. I'm argumentative, or I'm a recovering argumentative person, because I'm getting better at it. But now I just put those arguments into ChatGPT.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So like as a podcaster, I found that you need to learn how to use these tools, especially like ChatGPT. There's a lot of other tools that can be helpful, but especially when it comes to naming things, your podcast title, your episode titles, and your descriptions, especially the first few lines of the description of each episode, extremely, extremely important, right? You got to make sure that you put the right keywords in there, and ChatGPT is a tool that you can use to help you to, get the best possible answer, to put in there. So I asked you for 10. Actually, you know what? Before we go there, do you have any questions about anything that we talked about so far?
No, I've taken some notes. Once I start kind of going through the motions and reevaluating, I might have some questions, but for now, we're okay.
Okay, good. So what are the first 10 episodes? I'm not going to, the rules that I gave you for the title apply to these episode titles as well. So I'm not going to dig into them. I just want to hear what they are.
Yep. So again, I'm kind of this inner type of mindset thing that I'm kind of working with. But first episode, money isn't broken. Your understanding of it is. And the purpose is just reset of beliefs, talking points being money versus currency, why savers feel punished, why assets matter. And then I kind of touch on crypto a little bit. Second episode, I put why the system needs you confused. And again, the purpose is pattern recognition. Again, abilities that we have without necessarily years of education, some stuff that are naturally inside of us. And then talking points was the complexity as a feature, not a bug. Why financial education is optional, not mandatory. Media incentives versus individual incentives. A lot of external factors that we don't necessarily realize impact our decision making. And then 3, from paycheck to portfolio, the first mental shift, beginner activation, and talking points, income versus wealth, the moment you stopped working for money, the first asset you've ever bought and why. And that one I would like to do as an interview, just having someone else's perspective on how they kind of changed.
Okay.
And then 4, I have a story of how I borrowed against my crypto to buy real estate in the US. And I think because, especially in today's time where acquiring a home, especially in Canada, seems like such a lofty task, I want to show some different ways that I was able to get in as well. And then 5, real estate feels safe until it isn't. And that was just, if you bought a house in the last 5 years, you know exactly what that's about. So just balanced realism is the purpose. Talking points is liquidity risk, cash flow versus appreciation. And then number 6, I put DeFi, which I've been kind of sharing a lot about on social media lately because I feel like it's literally changed my life. And just explaining what banks do, we now have the ability to do for ourselves. We can provide our own loans using our assets as collateral.
I like the way that sounds. I want to listen to that episode.
I promise you will love it. And then number 7, the lie of I'll start when I have more money. Again, just kind of touching on the point that we are kicking the can down the road out of these, I don't want to say imaginary fears, but just blockers that we put in front of ourselves that might not necessarily need to be there. 8, what the wealthy do differently that no one explains to us. And then again, that's pattern recognition or extraction rather, asset stacking, tax efficiency, long time horizons, delayed gratification. And then another interview, interviewing a regular person who built an irregular life with some social proof, nothing flashy. I think there's a young guy that I'm mentoring, and he just turned 30, and every conversation starts with vanity. He's talking about Rolexes, Ferraris, X, Y, and Z. And I'm trying to explain to him, like, look at Elon Musk. You've never seen him with a bust-down chain or watch. You know what I mean? Like, real wealth doesn't necessarily need to flash. You can be quiet as long as you're supporting your family. And
you better teach these young kids, man.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you. And then 10, I put why crypto isn't about price. I think we, as a society, whether it's real estate, stocks, sports betting, we're treating everything like a casino. We want rich quick.
Yep.
We're not educating ourselves or knowing what assets really, the value in assets.
Yep.
So I want to touch on that. And then I have 2 more. Like 11 and 12. Can I share? Or we stop at 10?
Stop at 10. Let's stop at 10. This is good. But this is encouraging because it shows me that you gave it not only some thought to get the title, but you went into some talking points about the structure of what the episode will be about. Almost like, I think I told you to do it like an essay, right?
Almost, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so good. Perfect. Now, what I will ask you to do, again, going back to the ideal listener and his questions, problems, and challenges that he faces, I want you to take his top 3, either a problem, a challenge, or question that is something that is always his question. And I want you to map these 10 titles and then any future titles that topics that you have. I want you to map them back to that ideal listener and see which category they fall under. Okay. This is just for organization's sake, for your purposes. And again, to make sure that whatever the challenge is, that you're addressing it in the podcast episode, or whatever the question is, that your podcast episode answers that question from your ideal listener.
Yep.
You got that?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions on that one? Or that one's pretty straightforward, I think, right?
Yep.
All right. So the last time that we got together, I gave you my backstory of how I got into podcasts and how I do this and whatnot. And I asked you, you gave me your backstory last time we talked. And I asked you to take the 3 points that I gave you and to give it to me again. Did you do that?
No, I don't remember you asking me.
Oh, I see. Incomplete homework assignment, man. Detention time. Detention.
That's crazy. Hold on. What?
I sent it to you. I said, hey, we've got one more.
I remember you saying the defining moment, the moment you became the person you want to be, the enticing or inciting
incident, yeah.
And the backstory.
Okay, you know what we'll do? I'll give it to you now.
Okay.
All right. Now, you gave it to me last time, but I want you to think about it and write it out. Okay. Because again, this story, yeah, perfect. You want to, as you're telling this story, I want you to write it for that one person in your ideal listener. Give me your backstory in a way that absolutely resonates with him. Okay?
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right.
I think, and I'm not going to get into the story now, but I just think why I'm doing this or how my turning point was, I feel like I was that person that I'm trying to talk to. So
okay,
I'll try to figure that out.
Okay, excellent. So let's see. We're just about going to wrap up this episode now. So what I'm going to ask, or what we're going to do next time, is we're going to go into some of the tools and the structure of the podcast. So we're going to talk about, so you can think about it for now, but we'll go into how we're going to do it, right? If you're going to do an audio or video podcast, where you're going to host it, like which platform you're going to host it. We're going to talk about a launch strategy, right? How to launch your pod. Do you have a date in mind that you want to launch? Not yet? Okay, we'll come up with that, the date. And I'll text these to you afterwards, right? So your date and how we're going to talk about how to launch your podcast so you can get the most amount of traction when you start. And also ways to generate ideas for new episodes going forward, right? Because for now, because you're just starting, you probably have a lot of ideas, but eventually the well is going to get, kind of low unless you know how to continually replenish it.
Cool.
All right. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that next time. And I think from that next conversation that we have, you'll be ready, my son. You'll be ready. Yeah, you'll be ready to join the ranks and beside your name on your email, you could put podcaster underneath it as well, right?
Looking forward to it.
Right.
And like I said before, I appreciate all this. I mean, you didn't have to do this. I'm sure there's plenty of people that you could have helped. So thank you for taking time out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, you know what? There were a few people that came to me and they said, hey, this sounds like a good idea. And I said, I asked them first, what are you about? And they gave me a whole bunch of stuff and I was just like, how are you going to make that a podcast? But anyways, yeah. But one of the criteria actually that I had for people, that was the other thing, that they had some sort of following or something that they're passionate about that they're already talking about. And you're talking about financing and stuff. You're doing a workshop or something sometime soon, right? Is it next month in January?
Month, January 10th. We are teaching people how to kind of bridge crypto and real estate and just really talking on the similarities.
Yeah.
Everybody knows a lot of people are afraid of crypto, and I'm just trying to explain to them the more you know, it mitigates the risk and things of that nature. So we're going to do a live trade showing people with actual money.
Oh, nice.
Showing people how to set up an account, how to facilitate their first trade, how to leverage that asset.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are afraid of crypto, and there's a lot of risk behind it as well, right? So because when this comes out, probably will be after you do that, right? Is there going to be like a recording of it or anything? Yeah? Okay.
So I actually, and you're a huge part of this,
I am?
I started a school. Have you heard of school?
Yeah, absolutely.
SEOOL?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I started one. It's called Handsome Investments.
Okay.
Mainly because once I started thinking about podcast episode ideas, I was like, a lot of these topics, like I can talk about in the school, and I'm sure a lot of people are curious about this stuff. So it's been going, like I've been consistent with it, like how you're talking about people kind of slowing down or after a certain period of time. But it's been about, or since the last time I was here, it's almost every day. I've been posting something in there, sharing my experiences, and it's been helping. Like it's almost all encompassing the workshop, creating the podcast, doing the school. Everything's kind of coming together. And like you said, if I can kind of build that audience and just kind of
love this. You see, this is actually part of the next conversation that we're going to have, right? And since you brought it up, I'll just share this really quickly. But we'll get into detail of why that is so important, because your podcast, your audience it's called building a community. Mm-hmm. Your podcast listeners have to have a place where they connect. It can't be Instagram. It can't be, TikTok or whatever, because those platform rules can change at any time, and those people might not never see you again. If, like, say for example, if there's like something on your account and they kick you off the platform, you're gone. Yep. And so is all your audience, right? But if you can do something, right? And, I know school is about community, right? Building communities around whatever you're doing, right? That is absolutely perfect. That's part of what makes podcasts successful. If you can build a community where your listeners can get together and they can talk about your content, where you can continue the conversation and continue to foster the relationships that you are building with your ideal listener, that one person. He's going to be in that school group, and you can talk directly to him, and he has access to you. You can ask them direct questions, right? If you are trying, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves. This is the next conversation. This is how you get ideas for your future episodes. Once you build that community, you have people that you can go to that are invested in your success. So you can go to them and ask them, hey, what do you guys want me to talk about next? Mm-hmm. And they'll tell you, and then you go and do it. Yep. And then they'll listen because they asked for it. Honestly,
I have an actual prime example. So there's a lot of stuff going on with like Japanese interest rates that I've been talking about lately. And I had posted talking about a liquidity crisis or liquidity crunch.
Okay.
And I posted about it, and someone asked me, what is a liquidity crunch? So we spoke about it in a DM, but then I posted, if you are wondering what a liquidity crunch is, let's talk about it in the school community. Join my community.
There you go.
And then the guy that I was talking to, he's like, oh, that's a shot at me. I was like, no, you actually encourage. I was like, if you're asking that, I'm sure there are other people that would have the question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
for sure.
You're absolutely right.
For sure. Yeah. Anyways, we're stealing from the next conversation. So trust me, the next conversation that we have, you're going to see how all of these things that we talked about the last time we got together in episode 1, everything that we talked about here, you're going to see the next time we talk, everything is just going to come together. And then we're going to put a strategy together, and I'm going to show you how to launch so that your podcast just doesn't, hey, I started the podcast. You put up a Facebook post, started the podcast with your picture on it, you get 2 likes or something like that. I'm going to show you how to launch and get the most amount of traction right away.
Appreciate it.
All right. Yes, so it's going to be great. And I hope everyone out there, this was I think I unloaded a lot on you. So thank you for being, willing and taking all of my, my wisdom with a smile and my corrective, bad teacher, mindset, because I want to correct you. You're lucky I didn't give you detention or, or anything like that. But I'm hoping that everybody out there, learned something from this conversation. So if you're starting a podcast, make sure that you do the things that we talked about today. It's a lot of work up front, but if you want your podcast to last past 3 or 5 episodes, you have to put in the work up front, be very specific, and be, what's the word I'm thinking about? Intentional. Yes, that's the word. Be very intentional about what you're doing with your podcast and who it's for and how you are titling it. And, we'll get into the artwork and all those things next week. But all of these things are extremely important. All right. So I hope everyone learned something from this. Remember, the best time to start a podcast was 10 years ago. And the second best time is right now. And you're in the right place to do it. So I hope that you go and you make it happen. Peace. Yes. That was great, man.
Thank you, bro.
Whew. Listen, man. You're on your way, bro.
You're on your way. I appreciate you.
This is good, man. I love this conversation.